Wearing every hat in your business might work for a season, but it won't get you to the next one. So, how do you lead, delegate, and grow without burning out or dropping the ball at home? Today, I sat down with Joel Lonbeck, who is the founder of a growing custom software company in Indonesia. Joel has built a tight knit dev team, but he's feeling the pinch of being the visionary and the technician. He came into this conversation with one clear question: what do I need to focus on first? So, we talk about building internal training systems, shaping team culture, and how to make meaningful progress without burning out. Let's get into it. What feels most important for you today?
For a long time, it has felt like everything had to be done now, which is kind of true, I guess, in the startup. It'd be ideal to have everything done now so that you're ready to move forward. But yeah, I'm considering creating a curriculum and then creating a sales plan. And then like there's executing that. And then there's also just the projects that we have, getting those finished so that when it comes to sales, we can say, hey, look, we have some really good recommendations.
Okay, so as you think about this curriculum, you've got 2 weeks, as we're doing this, you got 2 weeks left in the year. And of course, you've got a bunch of other urgent things you mentioned. A sales plan, you want to set some goals for the year. You're trying to figure out how to make the most of your time. What timeline do you feel you're on for developing this curriculum, and when do you want to start using it?
Well, in a perfect world, I would be able to pull out this curriculum in a day and be able to take a break and then serve it as soon as we get back in the office. Probably not realistic. But I think I have a good start on it. I spent the last couple months developing a really good kind of like baseline software project that I can use as a reference for my programmers. But there's a lot of aspects. There's a lot of design patterns and theory in there that they're not familiar with. So it's a bit overwhelming to just throw this on their lap and say, hey, do it like this.
What do you plan to do at the time that you have remaining while you are working?
So my top things are I need to reorganize some code in one project for a customer. And then there's preparing the developer curriculum. And then there's like a whole nother piece of code elsewhere that would be really good for me to, I'm hoping to rebuild and fix. So I have 3 things that originally I had imagined I would try to fit into this week.
Okay.
Optimistically. So that's kind of what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Now that we've been, talking for a few minutes now, it's funny how, you're like the, the rubber ducky, have a little rubber ducky, and then you just talk about your problems and your plans, and then after a while, you're like, oh man, now I changed my mind. So,
of those things that are on your list, which of them benefits the most from the quiet time that you have right now, where no one else needs you, you're not distracted by other people pulling on you? Because there are certain sorts of work that benefit the most from deep work, and I'm not sure of the things on your list which of those might be the best candidate.
I mean, probably the curriculum one. To some extent, well, I would say 2 of them I would classify that as like deep work. One is for like this synchronization library that we've been building and requires a little bit more thinking, but I think probably the curriculum would top it because you're trying to think about how do we communicate this. I'm having AI generate it, so I have to like think about it. Is this right? It's a bit easier because it's talking about code and, I speak that language, so it's easy for me to verify it, but still I have to do it. And then I have to think about from the user's perspective, or the learner's perspective. So I'd probably say the curriculum.
Okay.
Would benefit the best or the most.
And having observed you for a bit, I think that that's right. I mean, it seems to me from the outside looking in, that's probably right. You know code, as you just said. uh, and that's something that you're used to doing in the margin to a degree. This curriculum thing's a bit of a stretch for you. It's new. It is I suspect a little bit out of your comfort zone because knowing it is
Mm.
different than teaching it. And so it sounds. I mean, I think that's right. Yeah, you should be focusing on this one.
Well, now I should consider canceling everything else out this week to make sure I get that done.
So, it's funny that you said that because I was sort of thinking, Joel, we might be there. I mean, I never want to drag sessions longer than the aha moment. And if you've had the aha moment here, then maybe we take you out of the hot seat and let you clear the rest of the things, including me at this moment. But I'll put that back to you. How does that sound to you?
I think as far as like the next piece to move forward for me, focusing on the curriculum, getting that done this week, postponing other things, even though really, I mean, those are important. Some of them I feel like, I'm going to slow down my developers if I don't get these things done.
I was looking at the video you sent earlier, so I'm a little bit familiar with some of it, but I was just very cursory. So why don't you get me up to speed on your approach to that? I know that you've been using AI to help you frame out some stuff, but where are you feeling stuck?
Well, let me kind of give you a summary. I so first draft with AI was, I needed to put together like a list of 40 customers, and I needed to like begin contacting them, emailing them, and doing all these things, kind of the standard, lead generation. Focus not on like cold calls, but based on your history, it's actually been mostly references, like, through people that you know. So capitalize on that, which, obviously to me as an introvert, that feels a lot more comfortable.
Oh yeah.
And something else I remembered as well, I just recently heard about a conference coming up in May. I think I mentioned that in the video.
Yep.
And that is, a bunch of people coming together, organizations, and that fit my niche specifically, what I'm trying to focus on. And I realized, oh, actually, that'd be a really great place to pick up some customers. So with the idea of like a potential conference filled with my target market, how can I best position myself? So maybe letting that be like kind of the not far reaching, but later in this year or next year goal. Um, what do I need to do to kind of get to that point so that I am
Yeah.
strategically positioned to capitalize on that?
So I saw the list earlier, but it's been about an hour or two since I looked at it. Can you remind me of the list of services that you sort of came up with in your conversation with, I think it was Claude?
So the first one, I'll just generalize these obviously, was like custom development, or like innovative
Okay.
custom development. Like not just, here we need a website, but like specifically here's a problem and there's really no good solution for it, and we need someone to help us make it, turn it into something. So
Yeah.
more experimental R&D type stuff. So that was one aspect. Another one was kind of like recovery, help us where our ship is sinking sort of aspect. And that came out of,
Yeah.
our conversations. I say, ours, mine and AI's conversation, that, in the past, I've done that and, helped companies survive. That came out of it as one of the services, but really, I'm not 100% certain I'd want to put that in there. Maybe we can have it as like a hidden service, we can whip out if, we feel the desire to really help someone out.
Right.
But I don't think it's something that I want to market. And I
Okay.
think with that, it had brought up the idea of doing like an assessment, a very, a cheap, takes like a week or two assessment of their tech to see what are the issues, what are the improvements that can be done. Again, that kind of would
Yeah.
lead into that, recovery, rebuilding one.
Okay.
So really, I'm just left with just the one.
Yeah. Well, let's dig into that a little bit more. Let me give you an illustration first. I mean, Tell me, why do you think having a menu of services is important beyond the fact that AI sort of like brought that back up for you?
The same reason that a menu is important when you go to a restaurant. You come to a restaurant and you want to see what can be done. So recently I was asked, like, what is it that you do? Um, and I think when I'm speaking with people, it's nice to be able to say, this is what we do. And that can kind of tie into the mission statement, but maybe more specifically, what can I do for you?
It's answered exactly how I would have hoped. If you went to a restaurant and you didn't see a menu and you asked, "Hey, what do you serve here?" and they answered, "We serve protein," you would look at them and be like, "Uh huh, sounds delicious. I think I'm going to go somewhere else." Right? Uh,
Yes.
but if they said, "Oh, we only have three different mains. They're super popular. There's the bacon cheeseburger, which is just like well renowned. It's one of our favorite customer favorites. We've got this 16-ounce steak that's cooked to perfection, and we've got, even though it sounds so simple, the world's best hot dog. I mean, now hey, if I'm interested in one of those, I'm in. So you're exactly right. Let's see if we can segment number one, because I know you well enough to know that number two and number three, you could do them, but you're not going to have a lot of joy in them. I mean, I've seen you do some maintenance projects, and that's not where the joy is for you. So, what are some different ways that you could break down category number one? And can you just articulate category number one again?
Innovation partnership is the title there that we got from AI. It's very energetic. So this is for organizations with experimental ideas. They want to explore and build. We will help you figure out what to build, then build it from initial concept through launch. And then it has some ideas for deliverables, multi-component systems, mobile apps, web platforms, dashboards, operational tools that create team capacity, teaching, and this is more like specific stuff that I've done before, teaching delivery platforms,
Mm-hmm.
impact measurement and reporting systems. So that's kind of the generic, kind of the
Yeah,
AI response that I got for that.
okay.
It's
That's right
not
up.
bad.
That's right up the alley. How could you segment that?
Well, if I can segment it in platforms, perhaps. So there's
Okay.
obviously mobile, and mobile apps. We have web apps, and it's rare when you have just like a server in the back end. In the cloud, there's usually like a front end to that, but
Mm-hmm.
you know that exists as well. But maybe just separate it, I guess, between web and mobile. I could segment it by kind of the function provided. So is it like an admin dashboard, or is it a user facing, you know, dashboard or something? Is it meant for the
Mm-hmm.
back end, like administration, or is it meant for users for public consumption? So that would be one. Another one would be kind of the target market, and I'm not certain that we want to like specifically sit in these buckets, but there's like, is it more educational? Like, we're building something for education.
Mm-hmm.
Are we building something for just like tracking data? Um, but I mean, those would be some ways to segment it as well.
Okay. What else?
I mean, reporting's in there. I guess it kind of goes with data tracking. Potentially, like the
Here.
size of the customer, like what
Okay.
they're like. Are you building it for like a small you know, little organization, or like a multi-branch organization? I'm trying really
Okay.
hard to come up with ideas, but
That's okay. That's the whole
um,
point of this is to run you out. Let me shift. I'm going to throw something to tweak your thinking a little bit. Think from the customer's perspective. They came to you, and the way that you described this was an innovation partnership. And I'm reading some of my notes here. You said we help you figure out what to build, and then we build it from initial concept through launch. And you've actually described a little bit of a life cycle there. So from the customer's perspective, this is new, bold, a little bit risky. Is there a way that you could segment more on the process?
it was similar to how there was like this tech. technology assessment idea that AI had thrown at me. We could do like an idea assessment. So we look at your idea with you and just like sit down and talk about it and try to figure out ideas.
Hmm.
Is this going to work? Is it realistic? Is it, able to be achieved through technology? So that would be one aspect. There's some other areas which, to be honest, this would be new or like slightly outside of our expertise because we haven't done this. Although in the future, I would like to get to this. There's like market research, and then there's like the delivery in that whole life cycle, the development in that whole life cycle, and
Hmm.
then there's like market delivery, which we haven't really done. Like we really have just focused on development. Um,
Yeah.
but in the future, I mean, something I've thought is, do we want to try to consider adding in those two ends, doing market research? Is this the right product? And then do, product to market delivery instead of just
Hmm.
here's your product. It's all on you.
So let me help you break it down into just some smaller chunks because I agree that especially the product market delivery side, probably a bit of a stretch for where you're at right now. You're more than capable of doing that someday, but it would be a stretch at the moment. You're already
Yeah.
doing some of the ideation pieces, and again, it depends on whether or not market market research is really something that would give you a lot of joy. But what if your menu of services looked something like we are the custom software team that helps certain types of organizations to bring crazy cool innovative solutions for their customers or for their niche. We like to do things that feel a little off the wall that haven't been done before and are really exciting. And the way that we do that is we've got several different packages. You could have the premium thing that's like cradle to grave. We still bill it out in different increments, but it's like it's the whole huge bring it to market package. We also do
Mm-hmm.
this thing where it's we call it the idea audit, and we sit down for a couple of days to really understand your vision of what problem you're trying to solve. We help you figure out whether or not there's really anything there, and then decide on some next steps if you feel excited about it by the time we're done. Maybe another one is proof of concept, and what we're talking about here would
Mm-hmm.
maybe be something like we help wireframe or even design the application and the solution without all of the guts, without all of the expensive code, so that you can actually take it to some of your own customers or your own market and test the idea with them or your stakeholders or your investors before we go through all of the hard work. You can learn less expensively whether or not this is actually going to go somewhere. Then we have the development cycles, and maybe there's like the minimum viable product launch, and then there's the make it robust launch. There's a couple of other things along the way. But how does that sound? Like if I could look and go, oh, they do UI prototyping. That's all I want right now.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really good, actually. I'm glad that you brought those up because, yeah, first glance, this looks nice. I like the idea of having like a wireframe proof of concept option out there, because I want to encourage that. Because it makes obviously my job easier if they see something and they like it and they say, yes, I want that. Well, great. Now I know what you want, instead of you just being like, I don't know. So I really like the proof of concept. I really like the idea audit, um, as well. And then the other three, I guess, I would classify those as, different levels of the development cycle, I suppose. Like maybe there's an MVP, there's um, the robust development, and then there's the full, we're in it for the long haul from start to finish.
and then there may also be like an ongoing maintenance or service agreement that produces additional revenue after that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What I think is good about this is not everybody is going to get past the prototype stage or the proof of concept stage. And that's actually better for you because if they prove out the concept at the beginning and learn early on that this wasn't going to work, you're not in this awkward position of having built something that's fairly expensive for them and then it not working and it feeling like maybe it's your fault. Like at least they learned with just UI.
Yeah, I would like that. I think it would help a lot. Yeah, like you said, not just on the clarity, but it would feel really nice to be able to say, hey, I helped you figure out this idea. It's not going to work. Like, I would feel good about that. If I
Right.
could say, we spent a little bit of money to see that this doesn't work. I just saved you a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I've also given you peace of mind because
Yep.
you're able to try it.
Yep.
So that would be nice. And I mean, the tools that we have available to create proof of concepts, I mean, it almost looks like an app now. Like, especially with AI,
Yep.
what we can do is pretty amazing. So that would be a great, I think, service to be able to offer.
Well, and
I like
then
that.
as you said, bonus, for those for whom it does work, it sets you up so well to transition that into an actual let's build it. I mean, as you just mentioned, those mock-up tools are so easy to begin to translate into actual production sorts of code,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not trying to answer all of those hard questions anymore about, well, what's it going to look like? What's the flow going to look like? What does it assume about the back end? So much of that is already answered for you and your developers at that point. I actually think that would be a really attractive option, even as you mentioned at a conference. If I could go around to a bunch of people,
Yeah,
and ask them, hey, do you have any crazy app ideas? Hey, we could help you figure out whether or not that'll actually work.
I was thinking about that. I was looking at these first two, and that could be one I get a lot of traction on.
Mm-hmm.
People wanted to just get in the shallow end of the pool and just try it out and see.
Yeah.
Um, but like not only them be able to see, but have something that they can take and like show someone else.
Yep.
That's really valuable, I think.
My guess is that having a really robust sales process is probably not your next bottleneck. Because when you say I really want to scale things, I know that what you mean is bring on maybe two or three more clients. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's about the number that you'd be looking at least in the next
Yeah.
year or two.
I don't need a big sales plan to do that.
Right. You don't need Alex Ramosey's plan for going to, 500 million. You need a plan for adding a couple more, which, frankly, Joel can do with one-on-one conversations like you've already done to get your current business. So I suspect that the next place where you break is really where you already are starting. It's okay, how do I get my team to do things consistently, to do them in a way that is the Joel way? How do we produce high quality software? How do we do that in a timely manner? And then from there, it's probably how do I replicate that team into one other production unit that can tackle, so we could tackle multiple projects at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree. Because if, right, the team was functioning well and I could trust them to like turn out code, like if I could get all my guys to program the way I do, man, we'd be able to push out a lot of code
Oh my
and I
goodness.
could just focus on other stuff.
Yep.
Um, but like, how do I do that, right? So there's the curriculum aspect. Like, I need to teach them. There's some theory I need to teach them. There's like basic practices they need to learn. Um, but then there's also just like the day to day kind of culture in the business. Like, how do I get it ingrained in them? Yes, I agree. That would be, uh, that'd be nice.
Well, I think you already know the answer to that question because you have, is it 5 or 4 kids?
4 kids.
So how do you get them to do the things that you want?
Well, I show them. I
Okay.
tell them when they disobey. When they disobey, I discipline them, and I offer them incentives.
Okay. And you repeat yourself until you're practically dead. Unless your parenting experience is different than mine.
No, that's right. I don't know who originally brought this up, and I don't know if it's necessarily in regards to marketing or just anything, but um, it was that you had to repeat yourself 7 times before someone really hears you.
Yep.
I forget if it was 7 or something else. Um, so
I
yes,
think it was 7 like 5 years ago, and the number is only going up as we spend more and more
going
time
up.
online and super distracted. So yeah, you're right.
And I've brought things up with them, um, and maybe this is something that we can talk about. How do I develop a cadence for bringing things up?
Yeah. You have a specific example that you want to pick on?
Yes, you have to run your code. You cannot just deploy the code without actually running it and see if it works. Because
Yeah.
if the customer runs it and it doesn't work, that's a problem.
Okay, why is it a
Um,
problem?
because it failed for them. Everything that we give to the customer should work. But if the customer gets it, we did a disservice because we provided something that doesn't work. It didn't meet their expectations. And worse, if it worked previously, but then it stopped working, well, now they don't trust the system going forward. And maybe all of this is just, in the back of their mind. Maybe they're really nice. Most of our customers are nice. But, even if they're nice, we don't want to take advantage of that niceness.
Right.
I want them to trust and believe that we can provide good code. And anytime we ship something that breaks, it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And it should be avoidable 99% of the time.
Okay.
Easily. There's not a lot of overhead either.
You use the word unacceptable. I didn't give that to you. You said it. What's something that your kids might do that would be unacceptable?
Like walking up and just smacking their sibling.
Okay, so what's the right cadence for addressing that issue?
When it happens. I mean,
Okay.
initially, oh,
Yeah.
we don't do that.
Why did you say initially? That was really interesting.
Well, because in the moment, I was thinking, well, maybe that's not the only time I should teach them, because I should teach them other times too. And then I was wondering, when are the other times I teach them not to, to slap their siblings? I mean, generally speaking, we sit down and we teach them, what are some good things that we can do? What are some kind things that we do?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of more negative, don't slap.
Sure.
So I guess we do. We look at it in the moment. We say, don't do this. And we say, what could you have done? Which is something that we've done before in our team. There's been an issue, and I can't remember if you've seen us do one of those before.
Yeah.
This is some crash. We bring everyone together and say, hey, we're not pointing fingers, but this cannot happen. But it happened. So why did it happen? And what should we have done? What could have been done differently? So those, I think, are good. But then thinking about back to the family environment, for us at least, we're not teaching them. We're not doing these recovery, meetings. You just give your brother a black eye. So we're dealing with that. It's more of a proactive. How do we, treat each other, in a godly way? How do we show love to each other?
So I'm not sure the approach is different, but I get that it feels like it. So let me share a quick story, and you will probably go, "Oh yeah, I've had that happen too." One of my children, who shall remain anonymous, has had some issues through the years with always speaking the truth, and that's like the cardinal sin in our home is to say anything with the intent to deceive. Like it's the thing we punish the most harshly for. We are extreme in it because we take trust between between us really seriously. And you're right that we address those sorts of things when they happen. And then I have a caveat on that. Until I see a pattern or a culture developing where it's actually going exactly the wrong direction. And then I'm actually much more proactive about that all the time. And so I'll pull this child aside in the morning when everything's great and remind them, hey, remember, we're people who always speak the whole truth the first time, always without exception, even if it's going to cost you. That's the sort of person that we want you to be. It's the godly character we're trying to train into you. So I just wanted to remind you, I want you always to speak what is true today, no matter what. And I'll have that conversation almost every morning until I begin to see like the patterns and the character and the behavior change. And then, of course, you're right. We also talk about the positive side of that, uh, routinely around our home. That God loves, you know, people who speak truth. God desires that. He praises it. And so we talk about the positive side. But I think the same can be true for a team. If I'm seeing a pattern that's actually destructive, well, I'm going to address it regularly and frequently because I don't want people to forget. And as I start to see the pattern or the behavior diminish, then I don't have to talk about it as much. And then simultaneously, I'm always going to talk about the positive effects of, hey, when we run code, it builds trust with our team. When we run code, because this is who we are here. Is that helpful?
No, it is. And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking like there's a lot of things we'd like to change in our kids. Um, there's a lot of things I'd like to change in my employees.
Sure.
But if I were to tell them all the things,
Oh my gosh.
it'd be a little bit overwhelming.
Yep.
So I'm thinking as we were talking about this, I I'd have a private list basically of like all the to not do's of like all the things I want them to start doing, and then prioritize them
Yep.
and say, okay, well, we're working on this one, and then that'll be the one, or maybe I could take two or something,
Sure.
and let that be the one I hammer in until I feel like we've solved it, and
That's
then
right.
move down to the next one.
That's right. And for some of these, Joel, I'm not going to be super patient. Um, for example, like not running code before we deliver it. Um, I I'm definitely going to repeat myself a lot, but I'm also going to make the consequences very clear and remind people all the time because this is something that could literally damage our business. It's putting your job in jeopardy, not just because I'm going to have to let you go if you keep doing this, but also because I might not have a choice. If we lose customers and they decide that they're not going to work with us anymore because they don't trust us, I'm not going to be able to pay you. Right? It's like this is really serious. It's extreme. We're not messing around on this. I demand that we, and I don't have to say the word demand, but I'm going to make it abundantly clear. It is not optional. And we're only having this conversation so many times before I'm finding someone else to do your job. And again, you'll have to do that lovingly, not the way I said it, but it has to be that clear. Just like I would be with one of my kids, like when they commit the cardinal sin of saying something with the intent to deceive. I go pretty nuclear on that one because I don't want them to think that there's any wiggle room. There's zero.
I mean, I guess I this came to my mind, but like the list and like taking one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many things that we can do, and like, what's the one thing? So, a couple of the one things that I've come out so far is I'm going to focus on this curriculum, and we have a decent list of features or services. So I'm going to take those and provide like refine those,
Mm-hmm.
which would be really nice to have on hand. Um, but then as far as like sales planning goes, that may be it for now because we're still pretty small.
Yeah.
And scaling for us, our 50% scaling means add 2 customers.
Right. So let me just encourage you in this. As business leaders, owners, bosses, it can be kind of discouraging when you feel like I got to trickle out the feedback because I don't want to crush anyone with a bunch of things I want fixed right away. But here's what I've noticed is that as I am consistent about those things, sort of a truth about humans is that the way that we do one thing is the way that we do many things. And so as you purposefully grow them in some of these approaches to work, I think what you'll inevitably see is that they'll approach other areas of work with similar integrity and diligence and intentionality. And you may not actually have to go all the way down your list because you'll start to see improvements in lots of areas as you're purposeful about it. At least that's been my
Sure.
experience.
It sounds, I mean, it sounds right. And, hopefully my experience is the same. But it sounds like your logic there sounds correct to me. So it is encouraging.
Awesome.
Um,
Awesome. Well, Joel, this
cool.
has been really fun. I thank you for hanging out with me, and I hope that you've got some clarity around how to finish out the year and then what to focus on as you get back into the office at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and I think, in the end of the day, I've read a lot of things. Is any of these things, like foundationally, like completely brand new to me? No, but
Of course not.
a lot of things get stuck in your head, and you kind of get, you get down in the weeds sometimes, and it's hard to see above everything. So it is nice to get a second pair of eyes to say,
Sure.
hey, remember this? Oh yeah.
Sure.
So it was really nice. I do feel much better. I think I can probably rest a little bit more this break, having these ideas in mind. So
I'm so glad. Joel came in wondering where to focus, and then he left with clarity. Prioritize the developer curriculum, build a menu of services around his strengths, and then shift from being the doer to being the discipler. As he said, if I can teach my team to think and build like I do, then we can scale this thing without killing myself. So maybe that's a word for you too. You don't have to carry it all. And growth doesn't always start with sales. Sometimes it actually just starts with systems. So here's a reflection question for you. What's one habit or handoff that would free you up to lead more intentionally in the season that you're in? If this episode hit home, then I'd love for you to share it with another Christian founder that you respect. And hey, if you'd like to be coached live on the podcast, then you can just head to the link in the show notes and apply to join me. So let me leave you with this benediction. May the Lord our God give you the wisdom and the courage to know what you ought to focus on first, to prune the things that are holding you back, and then to step into your role with clarity and with purpose so that you can live the whole life that He has called you to live. I'll see you next time.